The Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration is now targeting some popular restaurants in the district. ICE agents reportedly inspected several places to verify workers are supposed to be in the country. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser said she received a number of reports of ICE activity.
I am disturbed by them. It appears that ICE is at restaurants or even in neighborhoods, and it doesn't look like they're targeting criminals. And so it is disrupting. I want to be clear, this is not an MPD action, no MPD activity involved.
And joining us now is Anna Spiegel with Axios. Anna, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I know you've covered D.C. restaurant community for years now. How are they responding? Do they see this as enforcement or intimidation?
I think they're responding. There's fear, there's uncertainty, but they also are prepared. This is something that the DC restaurant community has dealt with before. They dealt with it under the first Trump administration. And they've been doing, know your rights seminars through the Restaurant Association and through individual businesses since Trump was elected. So there is some level of preparedness, but I think they do see it as intimidation. I was talking to immigration advocates, and they were saying usually this process, I-9 auditing, it's something that's administrative. It comes through letters. People are sent that to their businesses. This is ICE agents walking in with those letters in their hands, and sometimes they're armed coming into businesses. So that's a very different feeling.
Right. I was reading typically there are scheduled appointments, if you will, in advance. So a heads up notice. Is that how they are typically carried out before they ask for these I-9 forms?
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that they're scheduled in advance and that the original reach out is often through the mail itself. This is very different in that you have officers kind of descending on businesses. Some in plain clothes, but again, some who are armed and in the official capacity.
And we know it's restaurants today, but we're also hearing reports of ICE targeting schools in the area as well. What can you tell us more about the locations and what happens when they actually show up?
There's been lots of reports online of different locations between restaurants, schools, neighborhoods in front of metro stations, also targeting food delivery drivers from Uber and DoorDash. I think a lot of it depends on the interaction. Again, those know your rights advocates are saying, it's really helpful to know when they show up at the door, what can you do? Do you have to talk to them? No. Do you have to give them access to your business? No. It just depends on every situation.
And I'm seeing some reports also where it's actually impacting businesses in terms of people who may, have the legal status, but they are just fearful, and so they're not showing up at work. Are you seeing that in your reporting as well?
Yeah, I think there's, again, what immigration rights activists are worried about is this culture of fear that they're keeping people away from jobs that are necessary to protect families. And so there are some businesses, depending on what their labor force is like, that might not be able to operate on all cylinders or operate at all. There's also just some, there's just a lot of worry going on.
Okay. Anything else you want to add here, Anna, before we go?
A lot of the action yesterday was, again, this 3-day period where they're delivering notices that they're going to be back in 3 days. So this is not just something that we saw yesterday. I'm expecting that this is going to be an ongoing story through the rest of the week, into next week, and again, probably the next 4 years.
All right. Anna Spiegel from Axios, thank you for joining me today.